He's practically an original at the worldwide leader in sports because he started, I don't know if he was there day one or not, but we'll ask him because he's on the phone line right now. He is the general, fresh off of his Sports Emmy win last night, best studio host in all the land, and he is richly deserving of that. Bob Lee of Outside the Lines and the worldwide leader. How are you, Bob?
Just fine, Rich. Thank you. Actually, if you're scoring at home, and don't you think you want to be?
Yes.
Day 3, 1979.
Day 3.
Yeah, rather biblical.
So you're a third dayer. You're a third dayer. I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Do you ever walk around that place and just look around and just go, "Wow, I can't believe it looks like this now," Bob?
Yeah, but you know what? And you spend enough time there to ingest this part of the culture for sure. That you're usually so busy doing stuff.
Yeah.
That there's not a lot of time for reflection, unless, of course, we're primping in front of a mirror.
Well, I usually reflected on how big this place has gotten when I was looking for a parking spot, Bob. Tell me the parking situation has improved. Has it improved?
It has, but for reasons we shan't get into.
Okay.
You can put that together.
Okay, if you should not. Okay, very good. All right, good. Do you still have the same personalized plate, Bob? I won't say it on the air, but you still have the same.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One of my colleagues did, and he's still recovering from his wounds. Yes, I still do.
It's unbelievable. That is great. Well,
yeah,
look,
on the same car, which is 16 years old. You know me. Seriously, I don't.
Come on, you don't have the same car. You don't have the same car.
Yes, it's a classic.
Wow. Just like yourself, Bob. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, OTL and what you guys do every day and what you spearhead every day seems to be more and more an outlier in our business, Bob. Why do you keep doing what you're doing every day?
Well, it's a challenge. On its best days, it's a hell of a lot of fun. I work with some incredibly talented and energetic and just impressive people, and because it's stuff that needs to be done. And I sort of addressed that last night in my remarks. I mean, it's a complicated sports world that we're in, both the financial challenge, different platforms. I mean, if it doesn't fit on your phone, it really doesn't have any future value. There are paywalls going up. There are different platforms emerging. There are so many different business relationships between entities and rights holders and platforms. It's a challenge, but it just creates more and more areas that need to be in questions that need to be asked and fairly answered, and everyone gets a chance at the table.
And not to go all network on you from the movie days.
I am mad as hell, by the way.
I know you know the whole thing. I'm sure, but. Now, and certainly I've lived this for 15 years. Now networks are sometimes owned by sports leagues, and sometimes networks are in business with sports leagues, and thus there might be some sort of conversation about what to cover and what not to cover. Do you hear more of that at all at ESPN, or do they truly just let you do whatever you are going to do in your rundown meetings and go ahead?
Listen. Bob? I'm not so. I don't want to say the word naive. It's not that simplistic, and we've all seen reporting on these issues. In fact, including specifics regarding our show and the network in recent months. But I will tell you, in the area that I work and with the folks that I work at, no, we're smart enough to. I'd like to think we're smart enough to do what we do with an open mind, fairly, and with invitations to all to be part of the conversation. If there are other conversations at other levels, let them take place. But the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is on at 1 o'clock every day, Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time.
There you go. That's right. The 2018 sports.
Segued into a promo.
Look, Bob, there's no I in Bob or Lee. You're a team player. You're a team player. You know, or ESPN, I might add. 2018 Sports Emmy Outstanding Sports Personality Studio Host winner, Bob Lee, here on The Rich Eisen Show. I think I know what the answer to the question is, but I'll ask it anyway. The most important story that you've been covering on OTL is what?
Oh, my gosh. Over the years, and I mean, we were in the year 2000 beginning to report on brain injuries and its impact on athletes and concussions and issues. I think I can't say one. I can certainly that has been a hallmark. I think we've led the way. I think from the year 2000, I can point back to then the straight line of important reporting there on leagues and athletes and just the science. I also think the area of hazing. We've done some very important work
How about recently then? How about recently then? Just this past year?
Recently, I'm very proud of what all of ESPN has done and the various platforms, and we've tried to include everybody in it in the reporting on the social activism and the issues facing the National Football League. And what the so-called, and they're not anthem protests, they're protests during the anthem, they're gestures. I know the people, the Players Coalition feel strongly that term misstates what they're trying to say. But I will put what we've been able to report and the parties we've reported to, the analysis, the questions we raised up against anybody's reporting in that area, including the fissures in the players' area, the challenges facing Roger Goodell and the owners, and down to what's going to happen later this month in May at the owners' meeting. Are we going to have a balkanization of different rules in the league? And that's an important question because it's an emotional question. It involves the anthem. It involves football, which matters to so many people, and it involves politics down to the White House.
So where do things stand with your outside the lines reporting with Michigan State and Dr. Larry Nassar?
Well, yeah. I mean, Rich, we've been on that story. John Barr has led much of the reporting for over a year on the issue of sexual abuse and Nassar's role in that, as well as a report that last fall on Michigan State's administration and their demonstrated history of concern or lack thereof towards sexual assault allegations involving athletes. And those two stories started to coalesce late last year. And I honestly believe when we look back in another 10, 15, 20 years, and not just what OTL and E60 have reported or SportsCenter, but what all the sports entities have looked at, the issues that have been on the table, I think the Larry Nassar story, he will have a unique place in hell. And this story will have a unique place in our culture. It may actually outshine the equally important in the here and now Me Too movement. I mean, what Nassar did is just, it's beyond words, beyond words.
Do you miss the toy department part of this, Bob Lee? I mean, doing highlights, you mentioned SportsCenter. That's my first memory of meeting you, where you had the desk at the 6 p.m. Eastern SportsCenter off to the side with Robin Roberts and Charlie on the main desk, and you off to the side in what we called the general store since you were General Lee. And, I mean, do you miss that? Doing that?
Not a PC nickname, by the way.
Well, I thought it was always the car. I always thought it was the car from Dukes of Hazzard.
Exactly.
Bob.
Besides, bestowed on me, not claimed, but I'm not eschewing it. I've been fortunate to be part of a lot of our soccer coverage, and I mean, what I've been privileged to be part of in the 2010 World Cup, the 2014 World Cup, 2011 Women's World Cup in Germany. I mean, just 2 years ago, spending the summer in France for the European Championships. You got a lot of your itching done there of highlights of competition, and you're in the moment, and you're in the culture that revels in it. So now I've had my chance to keep my hand in.
No, I'm just talking about, when you first started day 3, the We Are Family Pirates were getting set to take on the Orioles later on that fall. I'm talking about getting into SportsCenter, doing highlights, two-minute highlights on a baseball game or something like that, Bob.
Well, I'll tell you, in the beginning, all we had were highlights from 3 or 4 teams off the cable box. I mean, there weren't as many highlights as you might want to think early on. And it was a while before we could start snatching them out of the air off of satellites. Listen, doing a late night SportsCenter, your adrenaline runs at a level unknown to maybe jet fighter pilots. But you know what it's like to you reach out your hand, but you're on the air and you're reading the lead into a highlight. You don't have a highlight. You don't have the shot sheet for the highlight. You feel a piece of paper pressed into your hand. Boom, they take the tape. You hope the writing's legible, and you're off. I mean, that's the fun part of this business. And hey, we got George Steinbrenner's agreed to do the live shot. We got him in 3 minutes. Boom, get ready with your questions. That's the fun part.
That really, really is. And hey, Bob, it's fun hearing somebody that's so richly deserving of an Emmy getting one last night like you did. For real.
Oh, Rich, I really appreciate it. You were among the first to reach out and text. I really appreciate it, and I treasured the time we worked together.
Yeah, me too. So you're going to spend time with family today? So what you got going on?
Yeah, exactly. And spend a little time in the city, and then climb back on the pumpkin cart and head back up to the country tonight.
You are the one and only Bob. Oh, last one for you then. Who do you think wins the World Cup this year? Give it to me. What do you got for me? It's right around the corner. What do you
I
think?
would like it to be Belgium. They've got the talent, they've got the manager, good friend, and the English can chill down. It won't be the English. I mean, you're just an ordinary footballing nation. We know it's not going to be Italy.
Mm-hmm. Well,
of course, if it comes down to referee calls and tight matches, we know it will be Russia for obvious reasons.
But that's on a future Outside the Lines, I imagine.
Exactly, and one done under heavy security.
Take care, Bob. Congrats again.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.